Yo, what is going on, my fellow weebs? Chrono here, and welcome back to the channel. So today we have another class interview. It's with my good friend Kai. He's actually going to be representing Soaring Blade Bouncer, something I, of course, am very well versed in. So it's gonna be a lot of stuff that you probably have heard on the channel. If you follow our content or follow my content or even Kai's content, you're probably something you've heard us talk about many a times, had many conversations about this. So it's going to be very cozy, very comfy, at least on my end. However, I am getting ahead of myself. If you guys are new to this series or are new to the channel, hey, I'm Kurna from Relic Cover PSO2 content. Today, we're doing these sets of interviews. We'll primarily doing interviews with top end players in their individual classes. I'm looking at speedrunners, top one percenters, solo players that are pushing their class to the absolute limit to pull back the veil on some common misconceptions about their individual class and give a platform to some conversation topics that they've wanted to talk about. We're going to be going through and interviewing Kai and talking about Soaring Blade Bouncer from top to bottom. Hopefully, you guys enjoy. Oh, and you guys are going to be seeing some footage playing in the background as well. It may not specifically line up with exactly what we're talking about. There's a lot to go over, a lot of footage to cover. So I'm going to be making sure that it's something interesting to watch. But if you're more of a podcast type person, that's totally fine. Don't worry too much about it. You can just toss on the background and listen. But I digress. Let's go ahead and bring up Kai and get started. All right. So I've got Kai here with us. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, Kai Star here. I played Soaring Blades for about a year or so now, especially since I think it was Kavaris, I think is when I started. I like to do solo content. I do speed content, kind of like stuff like when DFA first released. I think we were like first or second fastest time. Yeah,
Awesome.
that's about it.
Cool. One thing that a lot of people have gone into. So one question I will ask: when did you start playing PSO2?
Officially, when I first touched the game, it was back on Japan, I think episode 4 release. I've
Okay,
played for about a month and a half, and then I stopped because I couldn't understand anything. Like honestly, even with the the English translation stuff, it was I just gave up. And then
yeah.
global announcement, I started playing closed beta Xbox the 3-day weekend that we got,
Hmm.
and I haven't stopped since. Well, that's not true. Retem release, I stopped for a month and a half. I needed a break, and then I came
That's
back.
fair.
Yeah, I came back. I was actually really bored of Force because I played that the entirety of base
Hmm.
up until Retem release. Then I just went Braver, and then I went Bouncer.
Okay, okay. So a little bit of a shakeup. We've actually had a few people that have jumped around some classes in these interviews, so it's totally understandable. And yeah, coming from someone who played JP, I played back in episode 3, kind of quit for a little while, then really came back and hit it hard in episode 4, and pushed through past then all the way to episode 6, and then of course global since Xbox release. Yeah, no, it was confusing. There were a lot of confusing things that happened back then, so I do not blame you in the slightest.
Yeah,
Um, so you have quite a tenure when it comes to PSO2 for sure.
yeah, I have a
So
background.
nice, nice. So these interviews, we kind of like to start out with the positive side of things, which I feel like we're gonna have quite a bit to talk about, seeing as Bouncer, Soaring Blade, and Jet Boots got a basically they call it a renewal. We want to call it a rework. I almost look at it like a retooling of the class in general, almost sometimes like a return to form in a sense of what we or what Bouncer previously was. But a lot of it's good, at least on the Soaring Blade side. So I have quite a bit good to talk about. If you want to kind of do a bit of comparison for what it was previously to what it is now, feel free. This is going to be a little bit different than some of the other interviews since they didn't have massive changes like we have had.
Yeah.
But we'll start there. So, what are some of the good sides of Soaring Blade? What do we do well now as opposed to other classes?
Well, now we actually have a game plan that's not just okay. I'm sitting here and I need to Baps. And if for those that don't know, Baps is the equivalent of a blade art parry step counter. And you are supposed to always be doing that whenever possible because it was your highest burst of DPS you could do at any given time.
Hmm.
Since their renewal, now that's not entirely true. There are times where you want to be doing that, mostly when you know that your like Harrier Rain will not connect completely. You want to be doing as much damage as possible in the given time that you have. So you still need to know like BAP stuff, kinda, but to play optimally. But that's about it. now you're free to like use Harrier and then BAP whenever you get an incoming hit. Let the rain go off. Do 2-tap Harrier for your damage if the guy's gonna move around and you know the rain's not gonna hit. Like it's not as big of a deal, but obviously numbers show that if you let the rain go, you can still BAP at the end of rain and step, so you can still technically do the full Harrier and BAPs. There's a lot of small stuff like that that are still applicable for certain things, but it's not like I must BAP every single thing that comes my way. It's not like that anymore. Thank God, because that that kind of like alienated a lot of the bouncers, and that's why a lot of them did not want to play Soaring Blades at all, because you
Mhm.
needed to know the timing for every single attack. And by the way, the timing is different for every single attack that comes your way. So sometimes you had to BAP early, sometimes you had to BAP on the spot. It was a whole mess. It was not fun to learn at
Oh
all.
yeah, it was all over, and it did pose a bit of a problem when it came to levels of skill, because you're looking at, not only was it different timing with different abilities, but there was also different timing with different PAs.
Yeah,
So, and there was also some situations where it just would, you could not BAPS the attack at all. Like it was not a possibility because of how quick the attack was. So
yeah. The
it's
attack was either too fast or I might be coping on this, but I am 100% sure that some attacks are coded that once it hits you, even if it keeps hitting you, it's not an active hitbox, so you can't step it.
Mhm,
It's impossible. Like the slam on the DFA, no, not DFA, DFS hand. I don't think
mhm.
that's Babsable. The Tatsumaki, for those that know Street Fighter, for Venogia, aka Zelia Zefato, sorry.
That was a Feta, yeah, the Tatanaki,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. When he does a spinning kick, you cannot Babs that. I tried. I could not do
You
it.
know, I never even considered it. I've tried Bapsing it multiple times, and I just assumed I was bad. But yeah, like that's kind of one of those moments where you really, it's kind of difficult to figure out. Like it's, you just can't Baps it. That's wild.
Yeah, I think that fight was released before Step Art alternate.
Yes, it was. It was released beforehand, and then when we got it, it made that so that fight was still kind of one of the fights you did. Like it was part of like the UQ rotation
Yeah.
that we would still do. When after it came out, and it was really nice actually after it came out.
Yeah, I haven't had the chance to try it since Alternate came out, but before Alternate came out, that fight was terrible.
Yeah, trying to maintain height, it was
Oh
not a
yeah.
fun time. It was
Uh,
it was a pretty grueling situation overall, but
Even worse when you miss your BAPS because you would just drop to the ground. So now you have to double jump or dash jump.
or jump on the target itself to blow yourself up. It was awful. Everything
Uh,
felt bad about it. But the positive is that you don't rely on that nearly as much, which is very, very nice, to be honest.
yeah. No, I don't disagree with that. It's a lot less trial and error to find the timings, and then even when you find the timings, it's not 100% consistent. So it's pretty
So
bad.
outside of not being reliant on BAPS the video game, what else do we do? At least from Soaring Blades, from your perspective, that is just absolutely awesome.
Well, we have to also talk about Fanatic Blade, how it was changed.
Hmm.
It's not, well, it was good back then, but the part that killed it, the old Fanatic Blade, was that you had to encore jump for it to be like even more good, like a better move.
Hmm.
And because of it, it required you to have a bouncer add on 20 if possible. Otherwise, you're basically not doing the optimal damage. And everyone knows that rolling for add ons is a very fun gimmick in the game. But
Yeah,
that's
it's
another topic.
it's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with it, and if you don't have a high add-on skill, it's a skill issue. Honestly, you should probably just
Yeah,
get better RNG.
literally, it's an
Uh,
add on skill issue. So,
exactly. See, Kai knows exactly what's all. See, he knows what we're talking about here. You know, we're on
yeah,
point.
yeah.
And
So, it was really good before until Encore Jump happened and people started noticing that. So, the change that they did now, which is during a PA, makes it a lot better for bouncer soaring blades in general. It actually kills it for a lot of subclasses. Like
mhm.
Slayer, for example, they could still abuse some certain things that I don't really want to talk about because it's dead anyways. Um, yeah, I think that changes for the better. And the my only concern about it is that now it's like, what was it before? Like a 60-second cooldown. Now it's like a minute and a half or something.
Yeah, so it's a longer cooldown, but it also lasts longer as well. So
Does it? I didn't
hmm
notice. Okay, well that's
It's
cool.
up for 30 seconds now, as opposed to what was it up before, like 15 or something like it was up lower than that beforehand. But
Okay,
it's like a
well,
minute cooldown with 30-second uptime, and the cooldown doesn't start till after the 30 seconds is finished.
okay. I still think it's an awkward cooldown, even though it's really good because
Yeah.
you never know when to use it. Should I save it for the down? But then I already have pinion and I have all these other options that I can do anyways that are probably the most amount of damage that I could be doing anyways.
Hmm.
Or like it basically it becomes a question of what do you have available to you and if you have boots. So having boots
Yeah.
gives you more options. More options is always good. Um Not necessary, but more options is always better, unfortunately.
Exactly. Yeah, it's funny because we joke around about I was a very big part of not being a fan of Fnatic Blade in the slightest, because I just thought it was boring.
It
You
is, yeah.
didn't really interact with it at all. You jumped on something's head and Blade just flew out of you out of nowhere. And I
Yeah.
for the longest time was like, just delete Fnatic Blade and make it into Thundering Blades from base PSO2. And funny enough, that's exactly what it became. It's literally a potential from a previous weapon, Jupiter Tullis's previous weapon, where if you
Resolves.
attack during the PA, it would just shoot off blades during it. So uh,
Yeah. Wasn't
not
that
a
broken
function.
too?
I'm sorry, say again.
Wasn't that like really, really, really good too in base?
Yeah, that was basically like your so Jupiter Tullus was one of the go-to weapons for Bouncer soaring blades for a long time, and then they updated the potential to being like a redux version of it, so it was even stronger. So it made a resurgence of the weapon show back up again. And then they also made it so the I think it's the S5, one of these super special abilities from base PSO2, had the
Yeah.
same effect. So that was also really good. So you also wanted that on your like best weapon in the game. So it was pretty much stable for Bouncer all the way through base game if it was possible to be there. So it was really
Hmm.
really good. It was funny because I was like that's what I wanted it to be again, and it literally became exactly that. So we were laughing about the fact. I was like, oh well, guess they're paying attention to that at the very least.
Hmm.
But yeah, so it's a much better cooldown to use. It is a bit awkward, I'll admit. Yeah, it's kind of weird because it's 30 seconds up, but a minute cooldown afterwards, so it's a minute and a half, which doesn't really line up with anything exactly.
No.
Um,
And
so it's
every time you use it, you will have pinion before and after. So you're like, do I burn pinion during? I know you get two like strong waves of phonon blades from it, which
mhm,
makes it not that big of a deal, but still, like, it's do I do it? Do I not do it? Do I just wait for my pinion? It always
mhm,
comes like at this really awkward spot of, well, I should just fire pinion because if I don't, then it's not on cooldown. If it's not on cooldown, I'm wasting generation. So it's like,
exactly.
ugh.
It's a very weird spot to be in. And all that being
Yeah.
said, the funny thing is, it's still actually pretty good.
Oh yeah.
In my
Sadly.
opinion, better than what it was beforehand. It's like all those things
Yeah.
can still be kind of an issue for it, but it's still really good. So
Yeah,
one
it's
of those
so good
situations.
that
Yeah.
Jet Boots mains have to use it.
Yeah, yeah, that was a whole fun conversation we had with Nep.
Yeah.
That
Oh
was a
wow. Oh, I
that was
know.
a whole
Every time we talk about down damage, I just laugh and then he says shut up, basically.
yeah, exactly. He gave me a nice stern talking to about what Jet Boots is going through, and we had a couple of ideas we workshopped during the interview, so it's pretty good. So
Yeah.
we talked about the change when it came to Fnatic Blade, as well as not being so reliant on BAPs as well. We didn't talk about Pinion yet, right? We did miss that.
No, we didn't really talk about Pinion because I think Pinion just got straight buffs. Basically, damage got increased a little bit, and now it regens. I think it's 100 PP, but it's also affected by your PP regeneration fixes, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know how PP regeneration works on Pinion because I've noticed that like
It's
I don't know, it's
supposed to
just
be 100%. Not 100%. Sorry, 100 PP. And if you have
hmm
something like Melik increases PP recovery, I think. So that's
hmm
kind of why everyone was having different numbers. It's because it also depends on your enthusiasm level plus your potential. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Do not quote me on this. I'm pretty
yes.
sure though.
So I'm throw a monkey wrench in all of this. I have no fixes on my armor or weapon. Last I checked,
Yep.
I pinion and get 140 PP back
With what weapon?
with a flugel guard.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on there.
I'm
And then
going
sometimes when I
I'm
get
going to
kills with that pinion,
Yeah, no, I
I
was
get
about to
even more.
say I'm going to throw you another wrench and ask you what's your gunner sub battle level.
That's true. Ah, okay,
Yeah,
that's fair.
yeah,
Okay, okay, yeah, that's probably what it is.
Yep.
So yeah, there's just it's so weird, but like apparently that's like a thing that a lot of other build up skills had PP regeneration on them.
Hmm.
I didn't know that. So it's kind of cool that we have it now. I was like, why they just throw 100 PP on Pinion? Like, I'm not complaining, but like, where did this come from? And everyone's like, yeah, that's been a thing on a bunch of other build up skills. I was like, oh, why didn't they throw
Yeah.
that on this sooner?
Yeah.
Like,
According to the NGS attack table, Pinion is supposed to regen 100. Is
okay,
what I'm
so yeah,
reading here.
gotcha. So yeah, Pinion got a bit of a glow up. Not in the way that I wanted it to, but it did get a glow up. So that's still pretty awesome. I think that's a pretty dope thing.
Yeah, it
Um,
didn't centralize our entire gameplay in like another skill.
yeah, it could have been worse.
It could have been worse. Every successful BAB could have decreased the cooldown. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that would
Could
have
you imagine?
that would have been, oh god, well actually no, the sad part is like, what if it wasn't, oh no, I'm trying to think that like, would that have really been a problem for us?
Well, it
Because
depends. Because
it
depending on your generation, it could be. A lot of the times, right now, I have Pinion before the cooldown is over, and that's without T1 customization.
yeah, that's the thing. That was one thing I want to talk about, was the we'll get into that as well, was the tech customizations later. But yeah, like you generate pinions so fast.
Hmm.
Like if we took it off cooldown early, right? We can't generate it any faster than we're generating right now. Like, I mean, granted, if you have T1 tech customization, like I feel like it wouldn't be that big of a deal because we don't have anything that just instantly gives us pinion like Jet Boots did. Because
Yeah.
Jet Boot has their ability that just instantly gives them pinion. Um, but
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Imagine if PB did.
that would be insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct. But either way, so we've got, I mean, most of what we dealt with is kind of like just a glow up overall. We've got Pinion that, Pinion got a buff for some reason. Honestly, I don't even know why they buffed Pinion, but I'm not complaining. Um, we have Fanatic Blade, which definitely turned into a different ability, which is super awesome as far as I'm concerned. And you're not reliant on BAPs consistently, which is great. I don't think we even mentioned it, the change for BAP itself and how it actually like works now. At least our block does.
Oh yeah. Well, if you're familiar with PSO2, it's pretty much kind of one for one. I want to say. I didn't really play it all that much, but basically now instead of being on a 2 second cooldown, it's on a 0.25 second cooldown, I believe.
The retaliation, I believe, is on a 0.5 20 second cooldown.
Point
But
five.
so technically our block and our the retaliation damage, like the actual blade arts parry, are separated. I'm
Okay.
not sure why, but they are.
That's really weird. Yeah,
Yeah,
the counter
the-
edge is 0.25 seconds for sure.
yeah, the counter just 0.25 seconds. The block itself is just is just reset when we take damage now, as long as
Okay.
we block incoming damage. So you can essentially spam it if it's consistent damage that's coming up,
Yeah,
which is hilarious.
just like a Mugen, the dome attack.
Yeah,
It used to be pre-fire opinion for the entire dome, but now that's grief.
yeah, exactly. You want to
Yeah, you
spam your
Falcon
block.
and you spam BAP. Yeah.
Hmm.
I believe it regens PP now as well.
Yes, which
So
is awesome.
like it does everything. It's kind of insane.
We
There's
basically got a full
a
glow.
Yeah, there's something else that's not talked about, and I'm not entirely sure because I didn't really explore Photon Blade PP recovery. I believe it works on other things than normal attack now.
I haven't even looked into that.
I
I'm so used to
think it
subclassing
does.
Slayer for everything recently that I just
Yeah.
assume that it's my crit that's giving me PP back.
Well, yeah, it
Um,
would. But it
yeah,
doesn't give you PP back. It doesn't actually like randomly give you PP. It's you do it like a step counter and it'll give you more PP back basically. But
yeah.
I don't want to say this 100%. I remember this being the talk in the bouncer chat, and they were entertaining the idea, but I don't think anyone has actually like said yes, it actually does this. It's fixed. But I, I don't want to say it is, but I need to do more testing on this. So hopefully, I can come up with an answer later on this.
Gotcha. And if we do find something, we'll leave like a pinned comment or something along those lines. So it should be pretty fun.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so I mean, like I said, basically, Bouncer's seen a or Soaring Blade Bouncer at least has seen a pretty substantial glow up overall. So all these
yeah.
things are super cool. So we've kind of gone over like what's different and what's changed. So I guess what would you say now with all those differences and those changes? Like, what do we do really well now over other classes? Like,
I think we still are one of the most competitive single target class in the game. I am also of the opinion that if Bouncer reaches the same amount of crit than Slayer, we might actually be a better class. And I am not kidding.
that sounds awesome. I'm very
Yeah.
happy to hear it, and I honestly don't disagree. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't disagree
the
at all.
results are already there. If you don't know Comet slash Envy, he's already cleared Solo, Retum, and Alio, the new purples. He's already done it with the same gear as Slayer, I believe. So
That's
it's
insane.
possible. Yeah, it's possible. It's just the problem with Bouncer now is consistency, which has always been its problem. So give them more crit, and I'm pretty sure Bouncer may be the best class in the game if you're playing Soaring Blades. I
That's
have to specify that part.
Yeah, that part unfortunately has to be specified. If you're playing
Yeah.
Soaring Blades primarily as your weapon,
Yeah.
Bouncer could be the best class in the game, one of them at the
It,
very least.
I know it's taboo. People that main a class likes to shit on their own class, saying they're not the strongest. But I'm confident right now that Soaring Blades, par with the gear and the crit, would probably be able to compete in some fights for faster times overall
Hmm.
comparatively to Slayer.
Absolutely. And I mean, I, we were talking about this before the interview started. It's hard to complain about where we are right now, to be perfectly
Yeah,
honest, at least
yeah,
from our perspectives. I know from my perspective for sure, and Kai was saying the same beforehand as well. Like, a lot of what we're seeing is really cool stuff. So single target damage, I mean, it could be one of the better classes in the game. I personally have found that our AOE has actually been a lot more fun as well with the changes to pinion and
the changes opinion doesn't, well, it's more damage, so that's good. But
well,
the
it's more the
really the
PP
game,
regen.
yeah, well, yeah, I guess that's true. I don't really see it that way for me personally, but that's a good thing, obviously.
Right, right.
Um, but for me, the biggest change, I don't. Okay, first of all, I still think AOE is where we struggle the most, but it's
Okay.
not
Yeah.
as bad as it was before because now Stork actually hits enemies under you during the second phase, and your mobility is like so much faster than it used to be. Like it's not even like comparable. So you can actually move around. Second Stork will actually hit under you because whenever you start Stork, you're kind of like going under. I don't know how to explain the animation, but you're kind of like doing a small dive down and then you're
Hmm.
going up and then you kind of stabilize yourself and then you just like give like this little swing. Before the change, if you were above the enemy, you would actually miss and you would not hit them at all. Like it was a really like horizontal line around you. Now it's more like a Beyblade, meaning that there's like a sphere under you that will actually hit the mobs. So
Hmm.
it's actually better in that regard, quote unquote. But the damage on Stork, it's okay. I mean,
It.
not every AoE has to be like super strong, I guess. I can't really complain about that. We also have boots if we really want to go into details. Like Jolt is still fantastic AoE options. So if you want to be using like held aside surging impulse while you're
Hmm.
doing all that, you'll be building up your Jolt. So you can be doing that whenever you want for PP as well. So there's options. They're not the best options like Waker or something like that, but you have some options.
Yeah. It's just. I mean, I know for me, it's been. I don't know. Bouncers felt more comfy for AOE since having. It gives like kind of a what's the word I'm looking for, a just not a rotation, but just like there's something to press at all times. You're building up
Yep.
pinion so fast, you're blasting pinion off to get PP back, you're burning pinion, you're burning PP again. Like I
Yep.
haven't personally felt like I needed to slot in force as a subclass in
Oh no,
PSCs
you don't. If you're
unless
PSCing
like
now, it's the comfiest thing ever. You just spam
oh yeah,
Stork and Pinion on cooldown.
exactly. It's been really, really nice. The only time I've ever
Yeah.
felt like I needed force ever was when we were doing I'll know fours because things were just dying too fast and I just wasn't getting like PP off of hitting stuff too often. But
All right. Yeah,
other than
because
that, like it was
yeah,
really comfy, like really, really
things
comfortable.
things die too fast. You're not building Pinion, building, so you can't be getting your PP back. Yeah, that can happen if your party is actually really strong or the enemies are really weak or both.
Yeah, it was pretty bad in that case. So yeah, I mean, again, all fantastic things to say about Bouncer. So I'm curious to ask now at this point, like What don't we do so well at the moment? What are we still struggling with?
Well, that for me that goes back to AOE. I think AOE is still our biggest
Hmm.
weakness. So going from there, I don't know. Uh, our biggest weakness, we have down damage, we have burst options, even more
Hmm.
so if you have jet boots equipped.
Hmm.
We have fantastic counters. I don't know. Like it's really hard to complain. The only thing, again, this is just me nitpicking because jet boots have it and we don't. Whenever you jet boots PB, you get a free jolt, but SB gets nothing. And because of it, SB PB is considered to be worse, even if it's more quote unquote damage.
Hmm.
Because of how much faster the jet boots PB is, plus the jolt in the same duration of an SPPB, SPPB is actually really bad. So I think that's probably the thing I'm going to complain about here, and it's pretty bad. It's
That's
pretty
fair.
bad.
I think honestly, like it's a fair critique to have in that situation. Again, it feels difficult trying to complain about anything when we have so much, but like
Yeah.
it does create a bit of a weird situation where like you go into PB and you're thinking to yourself like, oh, well, I mean, you think you go into PB and you're like, oh, well, it'd be better if I use the jet booth PB because I'm able to get a jolt afterwards. But it's
Yeah.
possible that it may not be an optimal situation to use a jet booth PB because sometimes it moves past it. You're not getting all your damage in, so like it can create that situation. That and like I'll be really dope if we got opinion right after PB. I don't know how many times I've
Yo,
like
yeah, I brought
had
that up
this.
earlier. That would be sick, dude.
Yeah, like I don't know how many times I've had opinion on lock and like PB into opinion, and it just feels so good. Imagine being able
Uh-huh.
to do that every single time. Like that'd be dope.
Yeah, pre-fire, like during it, like right before a break, pre-fire opinion hits, SBPB, pop, then you get
Pops.
opinion.
That's so good.
Oh, right. Actually, there's probably one thing.
Oh,
There's
okay.
one thing that was not fixed with the renewal, and it's Harrier two tap tracking. That was
Oh yeah.
not fixed whatsoever. I think that's the one thing I'm going to be complaining about for the kit itself. Um,
Hmm.
one sec. Okay. Rain used to be really, 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 really bad because it suffered from the same thing as Stork as I was mentioning earlier. I know it comes from the sky and it lands, but that little landing area, it used to be a straight line. I swear to God. And it was the worst because if it hit anything above that, it could literally miss a weak point.
Hmm.
For example, if you were hitting arms on a down and he was armored, you would hit white. It was really bad.
Yep.
But now you can do him. You can do it during him moving, and it will hit blue sometimes. And it's kind of like, holy hell, what happened? It's night and day.
It's really nice, but
Yeah,
unfortunately, using double tap on Harrier, it's the tracking.
it it's still really bad. If you're too close to the enemy, it'll just miss. So it's like at that point, you want to use stuff like Stork because Stork single target DPS is actually a two tap Stork. Sorry, is
Hmm.
actually pretty good and it's fast. That's why it's good.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but the only downside with that is that if you're locked on, and sometimes if you're on the ground too, like touching, you'll lift up in the air. So you kind of have to accommodate for that. Uh, so it's a little bit tricky to use at the start. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people also like to complain about Pheasant because when you're locked now, you will actually go up and down, which is like the first time you do it, it's
It's
like, huh?
weird.
It's like, huh? Yeah, I agree. At first, I didn't like the change, and then the more I started playing around with it and getting used to it, I like the change because I have the option to use it and not use it. And by that, I mean you can lock on and use it, or you can go to the direction you want to go, lock on, unlock on, and then press pheasant, and you will not go up. So if you
Hmm.
really are like really mad about going up a centimeter or two, you can do that. But
The
it
only I would say the only like thing I'm not the biggest fan of is like it seems very finicky. Now it's kind of like a good and a bad thing. Like I've had moments like I'll lock onto the bomb in Solus, and if I use if I use it going towards that, for
if you're
some
on the
reason
ground,
I start moving up because the
yeah, if
lock's
you're on
onto
the
the top
ground,
part of the bomb, and I'm like I
yeah,
just like that shouldn't happen. But yeah, like as you play with it more, I know like I'll do like a short hop and then use it. And
yep,
because I'm
that's the
level
key.
with it, I'll move directly towards it, or I'll unlock and then I'll use it towards that target and then I'll lock on as I'm going towards it. Like
Yep.
that'll usually work for me as well. But like also get those really cool moments where was it where Solus goes into his mid phase and he summons all those three pillars or whatever. And I just run
Yeah,
directly to the third pillar, look up, lock on, jump, and then
and
just
go.
it goes straight up towards it. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is the best. I love this ability
All
right
hits
now.
connect. The last hit.
Yep.
Oh yeah, by the way, the last hit is now like insanely faster. It's not placebo. The last hit where you just swing your two swords is like night and day how fast it is.
I
But
was
anyway,
telling my chat that they didn't believe me. I
it's
told them that
oh
was the
yeah,
case.
oh yeah, it is. It's so much more damage. Like besides like just going like double jumping and then trying to line it up and then doing it. Oh man, it's such a. I love this so much.
It's pretty great. Yeah. So I mean, it's
Have
funny when
you
you talk about those
this
in the bad parts of the class
yeah,
itself. It's so
this is
hard to
kind of
find those
a
things.
this is kind of a side thing because we were talking about using pheasant on bombs on DFS. I like how you
Hmm.
brought that up specifically. Have you
Hmm.
ever had the moment where you were about to use pheasant on the bomb and then it moves to a different location as you're pressing the
Yeah.
button? Have you ever had that happen?
Yeah, I've had that happen where it starts getting picked up into the air or whatever, right? As you go to pheasant at it.
Yeah, but the funny interaction with that is the game knows where the bomb is gonna go. So if the bomb like is in a
Is,
corner and it moves to the right, your pheasant will actually spin to the right.
is that what's happening with? Okay, I thought it was doing something weird when that was going on. Okay,
Yeah,
so it's
I
it's predetermining the location of where the bomb's going to be dropping. That's so
yeah
funny. That
yeah
is
that, well,
hilarious.
that's the only explanation I can come up with because there's no way that you'll be moving to the right for no reason.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Okay. Yeah, now you mentioned it, I think about like the times where that's happened to me, and I'm like, did it because it unlocks you from the bomb. I just assumed that I hit my my arrow key like the other direction or something like that. I'm like, oh, maybe I just tapped in and realized or something along those lines. But yeah, no,
No,
that's
there's
pretty
no
funny.
way. Like my character was literally still facing the bomb, but I'm moving like a drill to the right. Like it made no sense.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So we've hit up a little bit of the good and the bad, I guess, the little bad that we have to talk about when it comes to the weapon itself, because there's so much more. Was there anything
Yeah.
else you wanted to talk about, like any other weaknesses or any other like things you might see that Bouncer is still kind of struggling with or anything like that? Because I feel like there's not really much.
There's not much, but there's one thing that's like a glaring issue that everyone should probably know about already, especially if you've been playing since the new rework and stuff. Because coincidentally, the tech and PA customization came out around the same time, right?
Same
So,
time.
yeah, everyone was playing around with these, and then eventually someone realized that wait a minute, every time I bap, I lose my speed with the speed craft, which is T3 for those that don't know.
Yep.
So that's kind of a problem. But unironically, it's not that big of a deal? Question mark. I don't know how to explain this. Because the idea behind the craft at the moment, even though it resets, it'll be better once it's fixed. That's what I'm getting at here. But at the moment, even if you're running it, it's still a DPS increase because no matter what, I believe all of your damage for Harrier is backloaded into the rain anyways. So the
Hmm.
faster you get the rain out, the better in every case. And every time you're on a down as well and you're using Fanatic Blade, it'll be more DBS anytime every time. So
Yeah. Okay. See,
it's
I was unaware of that. So actually, I'm gonna go back to the speedcraft because I've been using the one with the super armor or whatever, and
yeah,
it's
same.
like kind of meh. I'll be honest.
I
It
have
doesn't feel like it's
a
useful in the slightest.
I, I have a rant about that. I was doing solo MDFA
Hmm.
for a little while a few days ago, and I hit a wall and I realized what my problems were. First of all, I was using type 1.
Hmm.
Um so I didn't have the speed, but I'll go to that afterwards. And the second one was a skill issue where I would just step too early
Hmm.
during my pheasant, so the damage would actually not connect from the pheasant, so I would lose like a big amount of DPS. But then I
Hmm.
swapped to T3 and I got good, and my DPS got up by like 600. It was like
Yeah, I'm
T2.
okay. I'm going back to speed, dude. I am
Yeah,
a
go
fan of
back
the
to speed.
speed. I'm a fan of
Yeah.
the speed. You have convinced me. Everyone was like, streamer, it's broken. You shouldn't use it. And I'm like, this is really sad. I like the speed. But you know what? I'm
The
going back.
reality is for every fight that you're going to do, not every fight you will bab during your Harrier,
That's very
and
true.
a lot of the time, depending on where you bap, it might not even matter really, because if you bap at like the seventh hit of your Harrier, your sixth hit, you're technically only losing 10% and some speed of like 2 hits. Like, who cares? The rain is coming. Let the rain
Yeah.
flow.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, yeah, I'm honestly right after this is over, I'm going to switch it back because
Oh, I
I'm
strongly
I'm such a
suggest
fan of it.
leveling that to 10 if you can and go. Yeah.
Mine's level 10 already, so it was the first one I
Yeah.
leveled to 10 because I honestly I'm hoping and praying one of these days this happens, and this is just something that this is a side note because this is just something I played back in PSU. I was a huge fan of playing Acro Fighter, and the biggest thing of Acro Fighter was speed. You traded a bit of damage for max speed on your attacks, and that was super fun for me. Crazy to think, I know, because I know what Jet Boots is going through right now. I hear you, Jet Boot mains. Put down your pitchforks, put down the guns, okay? Relax. Adding speed, I would probably lose my mind if they added something to pinion that was like, after you pinion, you have just increased speed for the next 20 to 30 seconds.
Oh yeah, kind of like Jolt.
That
Yeah,
would
that
be
would be
sick.
cool. That'd
That
be
would be
cool.
so cool for me. And it's funny because I know right now JetBoot mains are rolling
Well,
over
okay.
because of what's going
I'm
on.
willing. I'm willing to settle to after UPB.
It's
It would.
okay.
It
Okay,
wouldn't
fair
be as
enough.
broken. It wouldn't be as broken.
I still want it after opinion. I
Oh
want
no,
opinion
I
every
know,
time.
I know, but like, there's little I can complain about the class right now, and adding something like this would just be ridiculous.
It would probably break it pretty hard, dude.
Oh
Honestly,
my god.
but I digress. Let's move on from there. So we've talked about those. We can actually move into. So we've done this segment a little bit different for everyone as well. And since we kind of got into them a little bit earlier, I guess it's a good time to transition into it now. Tech Arts customization was released with the bouncer renewal. So let's
That's
talk a little
correct.
bit
Yeah.
about those Tech Arts customization releases, how those factor into Soaring Blade Bouncer and what it's changed for our class or our weapon.
Okay, so I am a firm believer that T3 overall is the better one, which is basically you're trading 10% of your front half of Harrier for increased attack speed of the entire animation, basically.
Hmm.
So I think that's like insane because the rain is so strong. The faster you go into the rain, the better. Because I think I can't believe how strong it is now. It's just like I did the you know this, I did the Ngoku arcs
Hmm.
record, and I started bapsing less and having more rain, and I started seeing a damage increase, and I just didn't understand it, so I just kept going with it.
Hmm.
And I was running T1 at that time. I was not running T3. Just
Yep,
to give you an example of how T3 might have been more DPS. At first, we all thought it was less DPS, so I swapped off and went T1. And
I was
to
there
be
too. Yep.
honest, yeah, to be honest, for that specific fight, and this is what it's going to come down to, like I was going to say this, I think T3 is the king for most. And if you only want to spend your resources on one tech, go for three. But if you're a bouncer main, you probably want to have T1 leveled up a little bit because there will be some instances, like for me during Gengoku, it was very crucial that I would pinion on the spot, and it was very crucial that I had pinion back on the spot because there was a timing where he would start getting enraged, and I needed to have pinion when he enraged because he would jump out in the air, and that would be like a time waste, right? And
Hmm.
if you're trying to go for top speed, you don't want that. So now I had to juggle between I need to have as much down as possible and I need to have Pinion down when he's down. So if I did not have that T1, I could not get the enraged down, which canceled the animation of the rage. And then I did not have Pinion for the weak spot, which is huge, by the way, because you only get that once. So T1 there became clutch for that. I had enough generation to make it happen.
And to provide further context as well, I know you mentioned T3 increases the speed of your ability for 10% damage trade off. T1 gives you super armor and it gives you increased pinion generation. Now,
Yeah, I
granted,
believe it's 20.
it's it feels like it's so small. However,
Yeah.
in situations like you mentioned where it's pivotal to have pinion at a very specific time, that's where it's going to be important. So I definitely understand that situation itself. Notice how we said
Yeah.
T1 and T3. What about T2?
T2 is if you're a Soaring Blades main, I don't have to explain this to you. If you want to do 10% more damage specifically on downs and be 10% weaker everywhere else, there's something that doesn't add up here.
Hmm.
It's really only good if you're using Soaring Blades as your secondary weapon. So basically, if you're playing Jet Boots, it's basically the jet boots tech customization that you should be going into. And I'm going to be honest, I don't even know if that's true because T3 might be better. I would need to see numbers, but if you're fanatic blading plus increased speed, you're technically doing more projectiles with your blades. So I don't even know which one is better. I think
Interesting.
two, yeah, two might be generically better even for boots, but like I said, I think three will be king.
Yeah, from
But
what I understand, at least from the interview with Nep, apparently two is the go-to for jet boots. So yeah, that does track.
yeah, I
But
don't remember if it's 10% or 20%. That's the problem.
I don't remember either, to be perfectly honest. I haven't even looked at it. I know I looked at
No.
speed, and day one I got it to 6. I
Yeah,
was trying to get it
everyone.
leveled up as fast as possible. I was like, oh yes, speed.
I
I'm
think
addicted to
everyone did
that
that.
that attack speed increase, man, on one of your best abilities. So good,
Yeah, on
so
your main
good.
ability even.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Which is
I,
what's
wa-
important no, for
I want to
T2,
go
by the
back to
way.
that. I
Hmm.
want to go back to that. How the hell did we get that? I was so sure it was gonna be something else like stork or pheasant, but
Yeah, they
no.
put it on the most
Let's give
important
it.
ability.
Yeah. I was
It's
like, how
so
are we
good.
getting this so soon? We're gonna get screwed later on though.
Oh
There's
yeah,
no
no,
way.
I 100% believe that like later on. I think again, this is another tangent, which these are going to happen in the Soaring Blades one specifically because we both talk about Soaring Blades a ton. But I think purely every single PA is going to have a tech customization. By the end of the day, they're all going to have tech customizations, and some of them are just going to suck more than others. Some of them are
Yeah.
going to be boring. I think they purposely have like shaped it in a way where like Bouncer probably got the most pivotal ones first because they just got the renewal. They're trying to hype it up. They may have like gone a little too far with jet boots. In retrospect, jet boots might have went too far. But but with soaring blades, they picked the exact right time to add that in. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm very, very happy with what they decided to do with that. I fully expect our AoE is going to have basically the same thing that Gunner had, where it just gives us, it makes it bigger or something like that. Like I expect full on like just certain abilities are just not going to be that interesting, right? Like they're going to change some things up, and that's totally fine. That's something that I fully see coming as far as what we're looking at when it comes to tech customizations.
Yeah.
Um, but funny enough, when we talked about this section recently in the interview with Mitch, when we got to tech customizations, he had to talk about what was it? It was like five of them because it's 3 techs and 2 weapons.
Yeah.
But for Soaring Blade Bouncer, we only have 1 to talk about. So
Yeah,
yeah, it
technically,
was
we don't use text, so we don't really care about them.
exactly. So moving on from there, we also do a segment where we talk about if someone's getting into playing Soaring Blades Bouncer, getting into playing the class with the overall weapons we have access to at this point in time in the game. um Someone asks you, hey, look, what should my weapon progression line kind of look like where should I start, what can I move into, what should I avoid if anything, and where is like my end game as far as weapons go.
Okay. Well, as soon as you start the game, you'll be given like whatever item you start with. Just keep that until you reach, I believe, the RGT series. Basically, I
Mhm,
don't know if you
RGT.
can do that. Can you do that? Like,
From
I
the
know. They cracked up the XP of combat zones for like 300%, and apparently that's permanent.
Yeah, so the level, and this is for anyone who's newer starting to play, the leveling process and going through the story is not nearly as difficult because they give you a weapon in the Alio region. You get a set of weapons from a side quest. In the Kavaris region, at the end, you get a weapon to use. And by the time you finish the no, I'm sorry, I said Kavaris. And then the Redum region, and by the time you get into the Kavaris region, you should be closer to that 67 bracket, that you'll get your Argenti weapon. So you actually don't need to grab any weapons to the leveling process. You can get away with just using what they give you.
Okay, so I'm going to assume you're max level and you're on RGT series then,
Yeah.
because everything else is trivial until up that point, basically.
Mhm.
So the Argenti series is an okay weapon. There's a lot of rumors around it that it doesn't have the 5% base crit on it.
We just heard
So
about that. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty bad. But it's still better than whatever weapon you probably will be getting on the way there for free. Free is really hard to beat in the game where everything costs millions. So from there, I think I don't even know if Versh is better than that. I don't think it is anymore. Like if
Uh,
anything,
I would say Vershit High Fixa, and that's only because of this event currently.
Well, yeah, if you're playing this event right now as we're talking, and what I'm talking about is if you talk to, is it Ziemi?
Zami.
And if you did the randomite quests, you will be able to basically trade in photon chunks 2A and B for Terminate 2 Virches. Terminate 2 Virch is a pretty big step up from Terminate 1, and I believe it is stronger than Argent T. But
Yes.
I've actually not looked at numbers for Argent T because I completely skipped that series personally. I'm not at that point, and I probably never will. So I'm sorry, I can't give numbers. I will let Chrono deal with those numbers. But
You're on point. Yeah, the
okay,
Termina 2 is basically going to be a step up from Argenti for most
okay.
people as far as what you're looking at. And when you start rolling your add-on skills as well, like it's going to be even more. So yeah, Termina 2
Then
is a
that's
good place to
perfect.
start.
If you're listening to this and the event is still up, make sure you get that Verge Terminate 2 basically for free if possible. If you're feeling spicy, you can try and gamble it to 3. It's not that resource heavy considering you get what 5 of every weapon in the game by Terminate 2. It's like an insane amount. Like
Yeah,
I even got my Verge to Terminate 5 just because I didn't know what to do with them. Like
yeah, you get a ton of them.
yeah, it was that bad. So Terminate 2 Verge. If you don't want to even, if you have a little bit of money or you got lucky or you farm dreads, I strongly suggest just going for Melik. But I also have to very much specify that if you are going for Melik, make sure that you multi-weapon your Soaring Blades to the boots because the potential for the boots is a lot better than the potential on the Soaring Blades. The potential on the boots is like PP recovery increase on attack, I believe, and costs down by like 20%. And the potential on the Soaring Blades is damage reduction. If you like damage reduction, I will not judge you. You can go ahead and just straight up use Soaring Blades. But I'm going to tell you that PP reduction is always better.
Mhm.
That's my warning. And then after that, completely skip Tissa because the potential is not really all that great for the money you're going to be spending. And then Flugelguard. The
It's
fabled Flugelguard. You're not gonna like my
advanced.
opinion on that weapon.
I mean, it's okay. We're allowed to have different opinions. Go for it.
Okay. Okay, I think it's bad. I think the weapon itself, the potential is really bad. So besides being a stat stick, that's going to be better than your Melik. The potential that it has is pretty bad, especially in solo play. You'll only get damage reduction. You'll never get the 5% crit because you need three PBs in the same amount of like time, kind of like roughly. Like it can't be like I'm PBing now and then a minute later somebody else PBs. I don't think it works. It has to be like within the duration of the PB cooldown thingy. Anyway, I don't think they're good. And in party play they're better for sure because you'll eventually get the 5% crit. But overall, for the price, if you don't care for a Fixa and you can find a Flugel of your weapon series, which would probably be SB because you're watching this, and it's really cheap, go for it. If you're looking for a Fixa, don't, unless you're like someone that is willing to like pay millions. I'm talking like an Abandak 1, you could probably find it for like 30 mil and up. I'm probably like lowballing it a lot too. So
Yeah, you're gonna spend quite a bit when it comes to
yeah,
Flugel. And honestly, like you're one of the first to mention that it is pretty bad in the context of what you're explaining. Yeah, that's absolutely true. You're not
yeah,
gonna get a lot out of it in a solo situation.
no,
I would highly recommend if you're going to pick up a Flugel, it's not a bad buy because I still feel like Flugel is going to be like the premium PB weapon for a long time. Especially in party play. Like you'll probably
yeah.
swap to it and use it immediately. But if you're looking from a solo perspective, a high Fixamelic is going to go a long way. So
Yeah, just for comparison, I was able to clear uh DFA 2 solo with Melik and Bendak 5. I know Bendak 5, that's pretty high, but like I paid 30 mil for that Bendak. I bought it at 4, I think, and I upgraded it to 5 myself. But like the difference between 30 mil and 130 mil is pretty high.
yeah, and to
So
give context, I think Helvian's a Bandak 5 cost him, and man you, he's on a Flugel a Bandak 5.
he's a Flugel, yeah,
Yeah,
very
he's on a
specific.
Flugel a Bandak 5. I think that one cost him upwards of 300, maybe 350 mil.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty substantial jump. You understand where you're getting into when you look into these. And we're like
Yep.
less than a month away from the announcement of a new weapon series. So
Yeah. Like 2 weeks,
it is,
baby.
yeah. So it'll definitely change. If you're watching this at the time of release, of course, it'll be a bit different. Or it'll be what we mentioned. But if you're watching this at a later time, it'll be a bit different. So nothing really to
And
avoid outside of Tissa, which, yeah, it's a pretty bad potential. So that's
potential for
totally fair.
Tissa, potential for bouncer weapon on Tissa. It made me stay away from the weapon for so long.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's a pretty bad choice. But yeah, I mean, I would say in most cases, if I had to give a recommendation, just stay on your Malik. You'll be perfectly fine.
Yep.
Decent fix, then you're good to go. Especially with how they're doing fix upgrades right now, you can get a hold of something really really awesome. Or if
So
you're
many
one of those crazy
interesting.
people going for what is it? So funny enough, we found that a Versh Termina 5, if you're able to push it, is within a percent of a base Flugel. If you're looking for that level of power. So you got that going for you too if you really want to.
Yeah. The
Um,
only the only problem with the verse is that every single weapon will beat you on downs.
yes, that is a big issue. Is when downs happen, you're you're in a bad
Yeah.
place because you're not taking advantage of Slayer's 15% crit on downs. So
Yeah.
unfortunate. But now we're going into a segment that has been fun for everyone involved, no matter what the situation is. I feel like it's one that both you and I are going to have a fun time talking
Uh
about
oh.
because we really don't know what exactly more to ask for. But if you could ask Sega for anything that you would change with your class weapon, I guess specifically, what would you ask? You can go into like something simple and then go into something crazy, or go into something crazy, something simple. What's important first, what's important second, however you want to structure it. What would you specifically ask for?
Well, it's stupid. Well, my very, very first thing that I would like for Sega to do, and it was actually part of my my old like documentation of like what the hell is wrong with SB, which by the
Hmm.
way, 90% of it is just gone now, so I can't really complain. I've already talked about it, and it's the Harrier two tap. I still think that move needs better tracking somehow. I think because the move comes out from your left, I think the tracking gets screwed when someone is directly in front of you because it tries to curve to the right to hit it.
Hmm.
And then stuff like in Goku when he's down and you're really close and you were doing a Harrier and then he downs in front of you and you need to get off Harrier, so you just two tap because it's supposed to be the best option, but then you two tap and the rain decides to go by the weak point, rotates to the right, and dodges it completely. So you basically are sitting there doing nothing for like 2 seconds. It's like, come on, man. Why
Yeah, it
doesn't
feels pretty bad.
yeah, why doesn't it just come from the top of your head? Like, why instead of like doing two hits from the left, why isn't it two hits from the top of your head, like a overhead swing, and then it
Hmm.
just like rains his way forward? Like, why
Yeah, that'd
does
be
it have
cool.
to be from the left? Yeah, cool or not, that's besides the point. Honestly, I just want the move to work.
That's
Uh,
fair. That's a fair ask. So I'll give you that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it bugs me. That's probably the first thing I really, really would like, and I think it's reasonable, if anything.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, I want my moves to work. I think everyone will agree on that.
Hmm.
And
For sure.
the second thing, I would like. This is more a me thing, but like we talked about it earlier, I would like SBPB to be better in some shape, way, or form. It doesn't have
Hmm.
to be like a direct buff, but like giving us a buff, a refill of something, anything that would be cool. Um, or even like having if like Fanatic Blade is up and I'm PBing with SB, have it also have an effect during the PB, so that I don't feel like I'm wasting my Fanatic Blade if I have it up. Because sometimes you just do it and then, oh shit, he's down now. I'd actually be using my PB because it's the time for it. But I'm
Hmm.
literally using Fanatic Blade right now. So it's kind of like, oh, what a waste. Anyway, PB. So
Yeah.
it's like, damn, dude, that sucks. But
So I mean, again, those are totally. I think those are reasonable asks. I'm gonna go
yeah.
off the cuff and get a little unreasonable,
Oh yeah, you
because
and
I
your
think
attack speed.
these ones are kind of like a bit crazy, right? Like I think, funny enough, I feel like they'd be really fun. And if you're someone who played base PSO2 and you played Ets, well, you're going to recognize some of these because, yeah, I'm going to steal some from there. I'm going to steal some from PSU as well and steal some from base PSO2. Um, I, and this is just me personally, I think that neutral weapon action just feels lame. I kind
Oh
of
yeah.
don't want it to even exist. I would much rather it just be our block at all times because there are times where I would love to be able just to get a BAP off, and being locked into a having to use a PA specifically for that feels kind of awkward in some cases where I go to press the button and I'm doing that movement and I'm like, okay, well, I didn't really expect to do that or whatever. Yes, it's a
Yeah.
skill issue, but still, I would like it not to be
Ah,
the case.
it's
Uh,
funny because it was like this before. It was
yeah,
technically like this before.
that's how it was before, and that would have been fine to keep. But I feel like that's one
Yeah.
of those like they wanted to move it back towards bouncer a little bit more, like what bouncer was in base a little bit more, and
Yeah.
I feel like it's still a little bit lame personally. That's again, that's just me. Um, to get a little crazy with it though, yes, and I'll digress. I'll dial it back. Maybe not specifically just an attack speed buff, but like, what if there was like a buff that made it so you generated pinion faster when you got a pinion off? That is actually very reminiscent of Etoile with its high heat buff. Whenever it would use a connect or a full connect, it would get a buff that made it so it generated its next full connect faster, which
Oh,
would
that's
get
kind
it
of like
into a
Gunner.
loop. Yeah, so it would
Yeah,
generate into a
that's
loop
pretty
over and
cool.
over again.
Yeah, that's
So
pretty
it
cool.
was. I think that'd be cool. I think that'd be really fun to
Yeah.
do. And then get a little bit crazier. Yeah, what if PB generated opinion?
Yeah. Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
be
We
insane.
talked about that. Yeah.
That would be super fun.
Yeah, we
But those
talked
would be
about
like my
that.
those would be my wish list items. I kind of like the idea of attack speed because if you ever play Soaring Blade Bouncer in something like Lucille and you get the attack speed buff, like it just feels really fun to me personally.
Oh yeah.
Um, the last one, it could be a divisive one. Some people like this. I still say delete BAPs. I don't even want to think about it. I want to just press weapon action for everything that I'm doing when it comes to incoming damage because I think that's the most fun way to play Bouncer. But I'm not the only Bouncer player out there. Other people have different opinions, and that's totally fine. But I would like not to ever think about the phrase BAPs again. And it might be because maybe I might have war flashbacks about having to use it all the time. Maybe that's why I hate it. Some people like the tech, but I feel like those people also play something other than Bouncer occasionally. I don't. So
Yeah, having
like,
to rely on it 100% is definitely not fun.
yeah, it just wasn't a fun time for me. So
Yeah.
that's where I am with things that I would ask for. But and it's funny, Kai and I have talked about what we would ask on stream plenty of times and all kinds of stuff. So we've had these conversations, and I feel like he's more in the reasonable sense. I'm more in the I want cool stuff. I want crazy cool shit to happen sometimes. So we'll have to see what happens. We did just get a whole renewal, so I can't ask for too much, right? We did just we got a bit of a
Yeah.
glow up.
For
Um,
better or worse, you can't really say anything because for us we're fine. But
yeah, we're
Boots,
good. But our cousin
uh,
Boots, yeah,
uh,
they're not in a good way right now. Hopefully they get to see some good changes
yeah,
incoming.
it's a mixed opinion on Boots right now.
It is, and it's a hard place to be in because the place that Bouncer or that Soaring Blades was in for a very long time, and it does damage. It's the way that it does damage is the problem. It's
Yeah.
not that I always feel like if the problem is you don't do enough damage, that's a problem that's solvable, and it's one that's
Yeah.
solvable in a reasonable sense. It's
Mhm.
when the way you do your damage that's a problem. That one's more
Well,
difficult.
I'll probably go on a tangent here, but like the core gameplay of Jet Boost just completely got shafted into being basically just using certain PAs to build Jolt to get Jolt faster and spend Jolt. When the
Yep.
class was all about having a mix of PAs and text being used at the same time, roughly for the entirety of your gameplay. Now you can almost entirely skip text and you basically lose your class identity. And that's kind of sad for people
Mm.
that like that. That's why I say it's a mixed opinion because I know I've seen some people say, well, now I don't have to cast text. That's super cool. I can just focus on doing damage with my PAs and stuff. Which,
Yeah, but the problem is it's with your PA because you're not
yeah,
doing damage with PAs. It's with one. Uh,
yeah,
from what I understand from Nep explaining it to us, and that's if you guys didn't catch the Jet Boots interview, is that it has basically been boiled down to three buttons. It
yeah,
is it's hold Fierce Wave, I believe, for the
yeah.
Type 2 craft.
Hell,
Uh,
Fierce Wave, Bill Joe, you don't do BAPS anymore. At
Yeah, you don't
least,
have to. You don't have to BAPS. But
that's
the
a
plus.
positive thing. Because now you
Uh,
have the jet boost weapon action to reduce your cooldown of jolt because that's your counter. Jolt
Yep,
is
you
your
jet boost
counter
weapon
now.
action to reduce the jolt while you reposition, and then you jolt, and then you go right back into held fierce wave again
Yeah.
to maintain that rotation over and over again. And if you get a down, then that's when you use an off soaring blade with Harrier. But that's really about it. That's the entire class, and
uh,
that's pretty sad. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, that's basically all the questions I had here for you today. And like I figured, it was going to be one of those types of interviews since it's something that we both follow very closely. Did you
Yeah.
want to? Did you have any sort of shout outs you wanted to include, or anything specific that you wanted to add in here? Of course, like we mentioned, or I've mentioned in previous videos and this one as well, we're going to be leaving links to socials in the video description. So any of those people you wanted to shout out, feel free to go ahead and do so now.
Wait. You need like people to shout out.
If you want to shout out yourself, people, content, it doesn't
Uh,
matter, anything, literally anything.
I don't. I'm really bad at that, but I guess follow me on Twitch if you want to see me play. I do random things randomly, whether it's casual or hardcore. That depends on the vibe, on the content, and what's going on with the game. Like
Mhm.
right now, MDFA is a cool new thing to do solo, which is possible on a few classes. So of course, Bouncer was one of them. So I had to do it.
Of course, of
Uh, sh-
course.
yeah. Shout out to Nep because he's the one that introduced me to Bouncer overall. If it wasn't for him, I probably would have never touched Soaring Blades. He kept harassing me
I love
during
that story
Kavara's
so
day.
much.
Yeah, he harassed me so hard. He was like, "You should try SB. You should try Soaring Blades, dude. Yo, hey, you want to try Soaring Blades?" Eventually, okay, I'm going on a tangent here because this is supposed to be a shout out, but like
It's
the
fine. Go
only
for it.
reason why I started playing Soaring Blades was because a pair of Rug Soaring Blades showed up for 50 mil and I bought them. That's the only reason why. And then I started playing Soaring
Oh,
Blades, and that's where it started. I didn't
that's
know anything
hilarious.
about BAPS or anything, and I
Oh,
just started from there. So that's fun.
that's
Uh,
hilarious.
Shout out for Katia for always having my back whenever I feel terrible about certain things, and she also streams. So make sure you follow her on Twitch and YouTube.
Hmm.
And yeah, shout out to Cord for always being there when we need him. That's yeah. Like I don't
Uh,
really have any plug for them, but like you guys are cool.
of course, of course. And like I said, we're gonna be leaving links in the video description to all these individuals. Anyone else that we that didn't get mentioned here specifically that we remember later on will also be linked. So don't worry if there was someone else that was on that list. Well, I forget things during videos consistently. It's
Yeah,
always
same.
after
That
a
kind of
video
threw
that I
me. Yeah.
remember. So
Yeah.
like it just know that it'll be in the video description. Check them out. Kai is a fantastic bouncer. He doesn't just only play PSO2, plays other stuff. Is going to be branching out fairly soon, or is trying to. I would definitely recommend it. It's definitely worth doing if you've
Yeah.
completed what you're doing in PSO2 at the time. Other content can be pretty fun as well.
Yep.
We'll be playing what is it?
Grand
Grand
Blue.
Blue. Grand Blue coming up
Ah,
pretty soon. So
I've
you guys will
been,
see us over there.
dude,
It's gonna
dude.
be good.
I was doing. I keep going, man. I was
Dude, I
doing.
don't care. Do it for it.
I was doing. Eden. Was it 8S? And that game was like being talked about, and so was Blue Protocol at that time, and that was like back in like 2017 or 18. I've been waiting for that
It's
game
been
for
so
so long,
long.
dude.
It's been so long, dude. We're gonna
Oh
have a
my
good
god.
time. So yeah, you guys will definitely see more of Kai on the channel. I'm actually gonna be working on some other projects that we might be looking at pulling Kai into. So but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm bad at outros anyway, so it doesn't bother me in the slightest going into tangents because I do it all the time. Do all the YouTube things. If you guys watch all the end, you guys are absolute gamers. Thanks for hanging out. Take care, my
Yeah.
friends. Peace out.